Have you ever wondered why you can spend years in therapy, pour thousands of dollars into working on yourself, and still feel like nothing really changes? Why every breakthrough is temporary? Why the same patterns keep looping back? And somehow it's always your fault. Why the therapist never guarantees results, but always implies that maybe you're resisting, not ready, or haven't done the work? That's not a bug in the system. It is the system. And today I'm going to break down exactly why psychotherapy doesn't work and never will. You can spend forever trying to work on yourself, heal your traumas, or find your inner adult, or access your resources. But if you're doing it within psychotherapy, you're inside a system that doesn't just fail to lead to freedom. It structurally excludes the possibility. Psychotherapy has long transcended professional help. It's no longer a practice, it's an institution and a cultural dogma. Often the last hope for those who couldn't adapt to the madness. It promises understanding, healing, liberation, but on closer inspection, it doesn't cure. It teaches you to better adapt to the systemic pathology, passing it off as a restored health. You come for truth, you get interpretation. You ask for help, you get a framework. You try to break free, you're offered adaptation. This isn't because your therapist is bad or the method failed. It's not a flaw in the method. It's its function. To grasp this, you must see that psychotherapy isn't an exception to the logic of power. It is its extension. It does the same thing courts, churches, armies, or schools once did, just in a different language. No whips, no elders, no oaths. Just a couch, a cozy room, and someone across from you who is supposedly helping you see yourself. But you're not supposed to see yourself. You're supposed to fit in. You're supposed to accept, adapt, become functional. And if you resist, you're not ready, you're sabotaging, your inner child is getting in the way. This is the new courtroom, just with a softer tone. Look closely and it's obvious. Psychotherapy isn't liberating. It's a replication of the system dressed up as help. If this reminds you of the Hammurabi paradigm from the earlier video, you're not wrong. Psychotherapy is a new iteration of that same paradigm, only now it targets consciousness, not bodies. I'll prove this not with metaphors or emotions, but with cold, hard logic, point by point. How this system is built, how it holds you, why it doesn't heal and can't, and how to break free if you still want to be yourself, not the poster child for successful adaptation. You can believe all you want that psychotherapy is about you, your healing, your inner work, your freedom from trauma. But look at its structure and you'll see the same thing carved in stone by that ancient narcissist obsessed with power. Hammurabi is gone, but the system where one knows and the other is an object of interpretation lives on. Therapy claims to work with the individual, but it operates in the logic of a courtroom. There's a code, DSM or ICD, a catalog of categories spelling out who's normal and who's deviant. There's a keeper of knowledge, the therapist, with authority to classify. There's a procedure, regular sessions, a ritual of purification. And there's a goal, not freedom, but fitting you into the frame. You can't just be. You have to conform. Don't ask questions, ask them correctly. Don't tear down the system, learn how it works and how to survive in it. You come for truth. You get an interpretation in someone else's language. This isn't help. It's a new form of power disguised as care. And you see the same patterns outlined in the Hammurabi paradigm. Climb to exclusive knowledge. Therapist, like a priest of old, holds the keys to truth, and you must walk the path to understand what's wrong with you. Sanctification of the role. Psychotherapy is cloaked in an aura of science, ethics, responsibility, but it's just a new robe, a new hierarchy. Anything beyond adaptive behavior is automatically problematized. Rigid binarity. You're either working through or resisting, in therapy or in denial. Power asymmetry. You're interpreted, you're corrected, you're dissected. Pathologizing resistance. Say no, and it's not freedom, it's a symptom. End goal. Not freedom, but adaptation. So you don't disrupt. So you function. So you return to the ranks. Maybe with a healed inner child. This isn't coincidence. It's the same architecture, only now it works through inner speech and terminology, not whips or commands. But the task is the same: containment, maintenance, and reprogramming for the existing order. If you start feeling it's not getting easier, that you're not seen, that you're being translated into a language where you no longer recognize yourself, it's not because you're not ready. It's because you're alive. And psychotherapy is a structure tuned not for the living, but for the controllable. If you want to understand why psychotherapy doesn't work, not superficially but structurally, you'll have to face something ugly. It hasn't lost its way. It was always headed in the wrong direction. This isn't a distortion of its original intent. It's the intent itself. Psychotherapy isn't a side effect of civilization. It's a direct heir, a branch of systemic power. Only now, power operates not through fear and punishment, but through inner work. Let's get to the proof. It'll be a bit dry, but it's a necessary sacrifice for a proper systemic takedown. The psychotherapist in modern culture isn't just a professional. They are a sacred figure, someone with knowledge you lack. They don't just help. They supposedly see what you can't, feel deeper, understand broader. Founders of therapeutic schools are framed as prophets, discoverers of the unconscious, inventors of revolutionary methods. Freud, Rogers, Pearls, not mere scientists, but near mythical icons. This is the same stance Hammurabi took: wise, divinely inspired, chosen. He was the first to codify it. Power isn't responsibility, it's a sacred privilege. The therapeutic community churns out endless texts, conferences, and interviews talking to itself. It's a self-reproducing cult, hypersensitive to criticism. Any challenge to therapy's efficacy triggers a collective immune response. Internal critics are deemed unethical, external ones ignorant. This isn't about seeking truth, it's about guarding sacred status. Paradoxically, empathy in therapy isn't a tool for understanding, but for formalization. Your pain, your experience, your story, and the goal. They are raw material. They are translated into the model's language. You cry? That's transference. You're angry? Projection. You want to quit? Resistance. They don't see a living person. They see a function. You're an object of the concept. Every therapeutic approach claims uniqueness despite no solid evidence that one outperforms another. They use different languages, metaphors, framework, but none hold up under scrutiny once the aura is stripped away. This isn't science. It's narrative, and every narrative demands worship. Modern diagnostic systems like DSM and ICD are direct descendants of ancient legal codes. No context, no life, just categories, symptoms, scales. Everything's reduced to checklists. This isn't about understanding or helping, it's about classification and standardization. Don't fit? You're pathological. Not because you're suffering, but because you deviate from the template. The therapist always knows. The client is always in the problem. This isn't dialogue, it's a hierarchical model. Judge and accused, teacher and student, oracle and seeker. You enter the room not as an equal, but as someone to be interpreted. This isn't support, it's a procedure. Therapeutic knowledge is presented as requiring years of training, certification, ethical codes. Yet there's no core, no shared foundation, no theory that withstands interdisciplinary scrutiny. This knowledge doesn't evolve. It replicates through training, licensing, supervision in a closed loop with no external access. Therapy operates on simplistic dichotomies: healthy, sick, adaptive, maladaptive, rational, irrational. You can't be alive and paradoxical. You must choose, fit in, or be labeled unstable. If you're hurting, it's your trauma, not the economy, not the loss of meaning, not socio-cultural collapse, just your beliefs, your anxiety, your dysregulation. Systemic dysfunction is reduced to a personal diagnosis. This isn't help, it's concealment. Therapy doesn't dismantle the system, it helps you survive in it. The goal is to function. Don't suffer, don't disrupt, don't feel too much, don't ask too many questions, stay resourced. This isn't healing, it's implanting the parasitic virus. Therapy claims its goal is freedom, but its foundation, power, asymmetry, dependency, makes autonomy impossible. You can't reach independence by surrendering your understanding to another's interpretation. Freedom can't be granted. It can only be taken or restored. But therapy provides it, and in doing so, makes it unattainable. You're told you don't understand yourself, but the specialist does. You're inside, yet blind. They're outside, yet see. They'll explain what you really feel, think, or defend. This isn't help. This is epistemological violence. You can't liberate someone while denying them the right to their own truth. Many symptoms aren't disorders. They are healthy responses to abnormal conditions. Your apathy, anxiety, anger signals something's wrong with the world. But therapy reframes them as dysfunction. They don't treat your pain, they treat your dissent. You're told to adapt without asking why, to what, or if it's worth it. The psyche is a subjective, fluid, contextual field. Yet the therapist is an expert who can figure it out. If consciousness is unique, external expertise is impossible. If expertise is possible, you're not a subject, you're an object. And then freedom's off the table. Only adjustment remains. Most studies show that therapeutic effects come not from techniques, methods, or schools, but from non-specific factors: human connection, hope, trust, atmosphere. These have nothing to do with the approach. It's not the method that works, it's presence, not structure, but empathy. This undermines the foundation of therapeutic professionalism. If only basic human interaction works, why the rest? There are dozens of therapeutic schools, each claiming truth. Each has its logic, explanations, language. They don't just differ, they contradict each other. If the psyche were objectively studyable, these contradictions would be resolved. They aren't, because this isn't science. It's a field of ideologies masquerading as help. Even when there is an effect, it often fades. Months later, people return to square one or find new ways to suffer. This is called non-generalization of results. You learn to articulate, but life doesn't change because talking doesn't alter external conditions. It only creates the illusion of progress, and illusions fade fast. Scientific publications mostly highlight positive results. Failures go unreported, negative effects are ignored, stats are skewed. This is an industry, not research. What's presented as evidence is filtered data cherry-picked for the system's convenience. A consistent percentage of clients feel worse after therapy. This is documented, measured, but taboo. It's not advertised, not discussed at conferences, not reflected in reports. Why? Admitting it would erode trust. And without trust, therapy collapses. So the system ignores its failures. Psychologists churn out texts absolving themselves of responsibility for results, shifting blame to the client. If the light bulb isn't ready to change, it's the light bulb's fault. In any other field, if a specialist fails to deliver, you don't pay. No one says, you just haven't found your plumber. If your new coffee maker doesn't brew, they don't say, you haven't found your coffee maker. They refund you. Why can't you get your money back for all the wrong therapists who delivered no results or made things worse? Why do they call this evidence-based medicine? You can't call it evidence-based and then expect blind belief. Either it's science or it's faith. Pick a side. You come with pain, but instead of why is this world so fucked, you're asked, how are you processing it? Your reality, political, economic, cultural, is reduced to psychological. Everything's now a personal issue. You're no longer a citizen, a victim, an observer. You're a patient. You have a disorder. So don't change the conditions. Just work on yourself. Pain is no longer tied to social causes. It's sanitized, translated into symptoms, stripped of context, made neutral. Suffering becomes clean and convenient. The therapist doesn't hear your life as a story of surviving in a mad world. They hear anxiety, attachment deficits, unprocessed boundaries, or worse, ADHD, CPTSD, heightened sensitivity. Your world vanishes. So does your truth. Instead of saying, you're right, this is hell, they say, you need to learn to live with it. The system's pathology becomes the norm, and your protest a symptom. Instead of dismantling hell, you're taught new survival techniques. This isn't help, it's betrayal dressed as care. Therapy isn't just help, it's a filter. Those who work on themselves are praised. Those who don't want to are in denial. It's a new scale of judgment, a system of access. You're not just a person. You're either resourced or dysfunctional. You've got either grounding or trauma. It's segregation with soft terms and a smile. The ugliest part, pain is now a market. The therapist isn't a partner. They're a vendor. A session is a product. A website is a storefront. Services are a package. You're not buying a way out, you're buying maintenance. Your psyche is a resource asset. You pay to be neatly reintegrated into the system that broke you. This isn't support. It's an industry of containment. What the external overseer once did, the inner observer now does. You no longer wait for orders. You command yourself, monitor yourself, correct yourself, explain to yourself when you're unhealthy, wrong, not processed enough. Control is now internal, but it hasn't vanished. It's subtler, and that's its strength. You don't feel the bars because the bars are you. But that self was constructed from outside. It's not you, it's the system's extension inside you. You watch yourself, analyze yourself, praise your growth, scold your relapses. You don't just live, you constantly scan, adjust, work. There is no room for spontaneity, silence, or protest. All behavior is now either resource or trigger. You're either in process or in regression. This system seems neutral but is deeply ideological. It's a system where the subject handcuffs themselves and doesn't even notice because they're told it's introspection. Resist? You're in defense. Quit? You fear change. Angry? You're transferring aggression. Any step outside the script isn't your will, it's sabotage. The right to say no is no longer yours. It's a symptom. Resistance isn't freedom, it's a sign of illness. You can't leave the game because leaving is pathology. Consent is the condition for recovery. Therapy culture is built so suffering becomes a badge of value. Being through pain, you're aware. In therapy, you're working on yourself. Good job. You're in process. You're in the community. You've got mindfulness. Healing becomes social capital. People flaunt their sessions, diagnoses, insights. It's a new way to be normal through the label of sick. Validation now comes not beyond suffering but within it. Pain isn't a signal, it's a pass. You can't partially liberate yourself. You can't integrate into a pathological system and expect autonomy. If you still think you can just find a good therapist, you're trapped. Not by the person or method, but by the structure of the logic, the foundation built on the same principles as that ancient psycho's basalt slab. Liberation isn't a journey. It's a break, a refusal, a rupture with the system where your personality was a commodity, your pain a format, and your salvation part of the design. No institution embedded in this structure will offer an exit because it is the prison, just with the lamps and cozy furniture. Real help starts with demolishing the entire construct, with admitting the system was a lie, that you were never broken, that everything you thought was you was a shell implanted to keep you contained. You don't have to keep going. You have the right to break free even if no one shows you the way. It's the moment you stop believing in their map and start building your own.